There we go.
Cool. I like Monica's pick. We'll have to share that afterwards.
Yeah.
And yeah, guys, please pop questions in the chat as we go. We'll visit them at the end, or we'll stop and ask for questions at the end, but please don't use them. This time is obviously for you guys. Managing income expenses. So why do I need to manage my income expenses as a business owner? We spoke about this briefly earlier. Helps you stay profitable, helps you plan, helps you know exactly where your money is coming from, where your money is going, helps you understand when cash flow issues might become a problem, and it helps you pick them up earlier. It really is just about helping you manage. I'm going to leave the compliance piece because I'm not the compliance officer.
But you are right, adding it in.
And then, yeah, and then I'll hand that over to them. But it is important from a tax and compliance perspective. I'm going to take you guys through stub today. I'm going to get you set up. I'm going to do a practical sort of workshop. Before we start, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what you can do on stub. I spoke earlier around an accounting tool. What is an accounting tool? And I think in the creative space, it's actually an amazing tool to manage everything in your business. So I think when you are a service-based entrepreneur, or you've got a skill, or you've got a craft, you can actually get a lot out of that tool. From a management of I'll go through the steps in detail, but sending unlimited quotes and invoicing, that is your mechanism to get paid and sell your product. It's an amazing way to show up professionally to your customers. It's a great way to double check your pricing, to send things in a way where you don't lose track of what's being paid, what hasn't been paid. I'm not going to harp on income and expenses, we'll go into that. We speak about a little black book. So it's a great way to start keeping track of all of your customers. Who have you sold stuff to in the past? How much have they spent with you? What are their details? How do you keep track of those? Storing your products and services, knowing what's going on in your business from an insights perspective, financial reports. So a lot of this stuff previously has been thought of something that's done at the end of a month, or the end of a quarter, or the middle of the year. I think when you use a tool consistently, the stuff updates in real time. So having access to your financial reports at the tip of your fingers at any point in time is a massive win for any business. And then we can talk about the ease of I don't know how these guys will listen, because we might have to
Can we to the website and chat?
And we'll talk about how we build certain features to make this a whole lot easier for you guys and a whole lot more automated, so that you aren't spending hours managing your finances. Can you guys please go on to stub.africa? That's the URL, or scan the QR code on your phone or your website. And we can do that. And we can start going through this process together. And also, guys, there's no hard feelings or pressure to carry on using stub after this workshop. It's just we firm believers in you learn by doing. And the more you do things, the easier it is. Oops.
It's possible to share the Wi-Fi, maybe if anyone is using Wi-Fi. Very good.
You should get all this. And it's not photo and it's is everybody okay online? Would it be possible to share the screen? We can't see the presentation.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Maybe if you guys join Zoom call,
Yes.
then you can share.
Yes.
Oh,
Will you?
laptop.
Yes.
I'm
going to send. Thank you guys for asking that. Rules. How do I send this to myself?
Zoom in.
Just Taylor at stub.africa. Just AYLA and stub.africa. It's room 12
Q, that just same thing.
656. 8. Yeah. Yeah, that one. Yeah. Does anyone else need Wi-Fi? Anyone else need Wi-Fi?
Good.
Thank you so much. I love strong bottles. Don't worry about it.
Are you in?
Yeah, a little.
Okay.
Progress.
And then just check if you can. There we go.
Can you guys see?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we are.
Perfect.
Awesome. That's. That's not it.
We are ready.
Cool, guys. Okay, so. There we are. I didn't pop the link on there, so they should be ahead. Awesome. So I think if you guys haven't already, go through the sign up process. It's super simple. You'll see we just ask for your business name, your name, email address, and password. If you don't have a business name, just use your name. That's perfect. Okay. That's perfectly okay as well. All good. Awesome. Setup. So you'll land on the dashboard on Stub, and you can see there's a couple of activities that you require to do to get you set up and sorted. So click the big green button to start getting set up. So it's now greeny blue, we've made some changes. So you press the greeny blue button to get started and go through the steps of setting up your business profile. No, we actually should have done the last screens. But when you get your business profile, guys, there's a place to set up your logo. If you have your logo, add it there. If you don't have your logo, don't worry. There's also great tools available in the market like Canva or freelogodesign.org, where you can just go and make a random logo, not random, a logo that works for your business, and you can use that on your profile. Where this becomes important is that your logo will start showing up on your quotes and your invoices and your payment links. So it almost becomes a little bit of an identity for you when you interacting and engaging with your clients. You can fill in your details. Where details becomes important is this almost sets the backdrop for all of your invoices and your quotes. So when you set up your details here, this information is now going to start showing up in your quoting and your invoicing. Once you set it up there, it will repeat every time. Don't worry, you can always come back here and change and update. But this is just the section where it all happens. If you don't have a website, don't worry, leave it blank. It's not an issue. And these sorts of things also become important from a compliance perspective. So it becomes really important to have the correct business name, your name correctly, your registration number if you have one. If you don't have one, don't worry. Your address and your phone number. You'll then see a section for bank accounts. Your bank account section is where you can enter all of your bank details. So if you've got your bank details on hand, let's add them into the section over here. These will now show up on your quotes and your invoices so your customers can pay you. Is everybody online? Good. I think this is starting to feel like accounting software, isn't that scary? And everyone can do it, and if I am going through all of the basic stuff and it's too slow, just shout, and we can speed things up. Is everyone good? Awesome. So we're gonna speak briefly about invoicing, and before we kick off the practical about it, I want to speak a little bit about why invoicing is important, why quoting is important, when to quote versus when to invoice, and what the difference is. And I think I've often been like, why must I send a quote? I'm just going to send the invoice and then update the invoice and resend the invoice. I don't really mind. But it becomes really important from a sort of tax and reporting perspective. And as your business starts to grow, if you are sending invoices, that's practically income that you are expected to receive. So from a returns perspective, I don't want to go into this again, I feel like I'm in another corner, but that income starts to become recognized as money potentially owed to SARS. So if you're not sure that the sale is going to go through, if you haven't confirmed prices, if your customer hasn't committed to the sale, just use a quote. Quoting is non-binding, you can change it as many times as you want, and it's just a great tool to have in your toolbox in the negotiation process. So what is a quote and when should I send one? Again, this is something that if you don't have a website, you don't have a set price, you work with a client to get to the price that you want, use a quote. Send it as the sort of entry level talking point, go in and use that quote to negotiate the rates. Again, if your customer is not ready to commit, send the quote. What is an invoice and why should I send one? So we work with a lot of entrepreneurs on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that just send stuff over WhatsApp. There's multiple problems with that. I think even just from a professional perspective, it becomes really important to show up to your customers that you are running a business and you've got your finances in order, you've got your house in order, and you know exactly what's going on. So just from a general show up perspective, that's one thing. From a tracking and business management perspective, it becomes incredibly important to know who have you invoiced, how much do they owe you, have they paid you, have they not paid you? And I think it becomes really easy to lose track of those things if you don't have a tool or a system or a mechanism to do that. Getting that stuff lost in WhatsApp or waking up 3 months later and being like, shit, that one customer actually hasn't paid me yet, or they've paid me a quarter of an invoice or half of the invoice, it becomes hard to track. Again, from a compliance perspective and tax perspective, if you do ever get audited by SARS, they look for these documents. So they need proof of sale, they need proof of revenue, they need all of that stuff. So having that stuff on hand just in your general workflow becomes really helpful over time, and you don't have to go back. I mean, I sit with a lot of entrepreneurs, specifically now at financial year ends, where they're panicked and stressed because they haven't done all of this, and now they've got 12 months of records or reports that they need to go back and do because it's now a requirement. So just guys, and I think when you see how easy it is and you feel how easy it is, you'll be like, why have I not been doing this? It's not a complex sort of process. A great thing about Stub here is what we realized that a lot of entrepreneurs start their business by getting paid and using tools to get paid. We haven't restricted how many invoices and quotes you can send on the free plan. So you can literally start today. There is no commitment, no stress, no excuse. So start sending invoices and quotes. It doesn't cost you a thing.
Can I quickly interject there on this note? I think maybe it's good to highlight why it's good to use an accounting system rather than, because I think a lot of creatives just generate an invoice maybe on Canva or Microsoft Word or something. Me being I've definitely done that. And I think maybe to expand a bit on the tracking.
Yes.
It's nice that comes with something like that.
Yes. I'll show some of the examples, but it's a great point, Jules. So we work with a lot of creatives, and I get it. I get a lot of the reasons why creatives want to do things on Canva, want to do it on Figma, they want it to align to their brand, and that's super important. I do get that. We've tried really hard at Stub to create beautiful, simple, clean invoices, and we've created a space for you to have your own brand. The problem with using Word, Canva, Figma from a tracking and management perspective is you never know. You never know what you've sent, you don't know your invoices, you don't know the total amount of money that you've invoiced out. You don't know the total of money you expected, you don't know how much is missing. So from a tracking perspective, using a tool, any accounting tool to track what's outstanding, who owes you what, is an important mechanism just in staying on top of your finances. And I'll show you how we do that in Stub, and I'll show you how it's simple and easy, and you can see exactly what's going on. So let's go and start getting ready to send our first invoice. So head to products and services. Let's add a product or a service that you guys do on a daily basis. Maybe do your last sale, or maybe do your last invoice or quote that you should have sent. Let's add a product in the product section. Head to products, click on add product or add item. And just shout if you guys need help. A lot more than you can expect when you go around here. I'm just going to put one screen. Just get ready for the heat the next year. You guys are just going to have to embrace me and yeah.
I have a sub question.
Yeah.
If I were to just join Stub now, and all my previous invoices may have been made on freeinvoicegenerator.com, would I be able to input past invoices like from the beginning of the year up until now, and then be able to track that already set data moving forward?
Of course. So
Good section.
good question. So I think if you're already on the back foot and you have been doing this for a while, don't stress. Like you can go into Stub, you can go back as far as you want. You can add your invoices in the past, you can mark them as paid, you can mark them as sent if they haven't been paid. So you can still go back and track this stuff if you haven't done it yet. It's always a good time to start. So thank you, Amy, great question. Is everyone good? And we have our first product. So I then want you to go to customers. Open your WhatsApp, open your email, go add the last customer or the next customer that you owe this invoice to. If you want to really send it, just add yourself, because then we can actually send the invoice and you can see how it works. But this literally does become your little black book. So as you start adding your customers here, over time, you'll be able to see how much this customer has spent with you over time. Like I said earlier, how much this customer owes you, how much is outstanding. I'll show you guys customer statements as well. So you can download these and that awkward time at the end of the month where they haven't paid for the third month in a row. We often say to our customers, just download the customer statement and just say, so sorry, at the end of the month, going through my finances and it looks like there's a little bit outstanding. Please settle at your soonest convenience. Download the statement, send it off, which removes the awkwardness in that situation. I know it's really easy to just put a name and an email address, but as much information as you do have on this customer, it's always great to keep these things up to date and for you to know as much about your customer as possible. Let's head to your invoice section and Stub. So once you've added your customer and you've saved them, let's head to invoices. Is everybody good online? Good. Oh, thank you, Jules. You've got us there. Oh, it was said. It was your name. Said everybody good with a question.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay, cool, guys. So if you look at the invoicing section at Stub, it's pretty much identical to the quoting section. So if you know how to quote on Stub, you know how to invoice. So if you head to invoices, let's go select your first customer. You'll see all of the information that you add in Stub automatically pre-populates into your invoicing and quoting sections. From a customer perspective, from a product perspective, it will always be there for you. Your invoice numbers update automatically. Another pro of using accounting software and not a manual tool. You don't have to keep track of the invoice numbers that you've sent over time. The system will keep track of that for you and update. You guys will obviously have the flexibility from the date created and the date due. So figure out your payment terms, figure out when your invoices are due and update that accordingly. There are sections at the bottom where you can put descriptions in there if you want to elaborate on your payment terms. If you want to specify something, you can do that as well. there's also a section, the settings section in stub, where you can actually set that standard across your invoices and it will show up every time. I'm going to speak a little bit about discounts and deposits. We often recommend, if you are in a service-based industry, if you are in a creative industry, it's really important to take a deposit before you start buying the materials that you're using to do the job. It's really important to get that a little bit upfront and then start the work. That's just a pointer and the note there. Add your customer and add your product. Has everybody done that? We know sending invoices can sometimes be scary and you want to double check that everything's there. So there is a functionality in stub before you send to click on those little 3 dots and actually double check what it is like on Lord Office so I can tell. There we are. If you click on the little 3 dots, you'll see a drop down. Those are all the options you can do with your invoice report. So if you want to preview the link and see what your customers are going to see, hit preview. You can have a look before you send. You can also download all of your quotes and your invoices if you need to. And then there's also the option to send your invoices and quotes through WhatsApp. So you can send your emails and quotes through WhatsApp or send your emails and quotes. You guys don't correct me, that is very
I got you there.
Send your invoices and quotes through email or through WhatsApp. So we do realize that a lot of our entrepreneurs are transacting on WhatsApp, and that method of communication is incredibly important. So if you are communicating with your customer there, you can do it. Just please send an invoice on WhatsApp. Awesome. I'm going to speak to online payments. Depending on the price of your work, you will probably decide whether you want to use this functionality or not. We generally say if you've got high priced items, you probably don't want to get paid through a payment link. There are fees and charges involved in the payment link. So either don't use the payment link or price for it. So include the price of the payment fee into your price so that you guys aren't getting shortchanged at the end of the day. It's a fantastic way for customers to pay. So what we've realized is if you do have payment links on your invoices, people generally pay faster. If you have to go and enter EFT details from an invoice to your bank account, people are like, oh, I'll do this later. But if you can just quickly payment link, card details are there, pay, we generally see that gap closes. Link up. So if you go back to the settings section in stub, you will see online payments. That will highlight the fees associated, what's included on online payments, and tell you a little bit about these mechanisms. We do evolve this payment functionality over time. So we're starting to look at your Apple Pays, your Google Pays at the moment. So just creating more ways for you guys to get paid on your invoices. Click Get Started. I'm going to show you how to toggle this on and off so that you can switch it on and off on your invoices. If you go through that process, your bank account details should be there. You should be able to just select the account and it should be set up. Easy. Does anybody have any questions?
I think there's like one.
Bravo, that's a great question. I actually haven't come across that before, but I'll ask Ella.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought you could almost, yes, in aggregate price it so that it's almost like including your cost of sales, but you couldn't charge like different prices for different customers depending on which payment method they used. So that's the reason I was asking. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've actually got it. So that's exactly what I meant. So I don't charge different based on the way they pay.
Yes,
but if you are going to use payment functionality, just include that cost of sale in your pricing.
Okay.
So that aren't changed, but don't change the price of your product based on how your customer pays.
Can I just comment on that? Because that's quite a tricky one to do, because your cost shouldn't actually change. You don't really know which client is going to pay you online, and so that is actually almost like a discount that you are giving your client. That's how I explained it to my clients. Instead of incorporating it into your cost, it's actually a discount you're giving for someone paying straight away. Because when they pay online, it generally, it's faster. Yeah, it goes through quicker, and you're probably gonna get your money quicker. And so it's almost like a settlement discount that you're giving them. But do bear in mind, obviously, of the fees. So when you are doing costing overall of your product, do make sure that you are putting in some of that in there, which there should be.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't target it specifically for online fees, because you actually don't know who's gonna pay online and who's not.
Yeah, great,
That's the hard part.
I agree.
So you do take slight risk there when you offer online payments. You do take risk, but you obviously hopefully you are charging a markup on your cost that is sufficient for bank fees and all of that. It is a tricky one. I've had this question a couple of times. But to me, I always see it as you're getting your money quicker. And so, yeah,
But I think,
you saving time sending a statement, phoning the client, following up, or
but I think as default, included in your cost of sales. So cost for,
depends on your business. If you are generally an online business and you're selling your products or your services online, and the companies are generally paying through a payment link, then you would.
Yeah.
However, speaking from my own, like our own business, it would be, sometimes clients will pay, they don't always pay, because they might add as a scheduled payment, and then they just pay it through there, which is fine as well, and then you don't, but in your instance, if you're selling products, and so mine's quite recurring, that's what I wanted to say, the income's recurring. If you don't have recurring income, and it's here and there, then I probably would add it into something for bank to. You would, when you're doing your costing, you do generally add your operating expenses, but it is difficult to pinpoint that exact percentage, for example, 4.5% or 3.5%, because you actually don't know if that client's going to pay online. But if they are, and regularly you only accept online payments, then yes, you would. I hope that answers the question.
yeah, we can also help more on that post the session. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Okay, guys, so we spoke briefly a little bit around follow-ups and keeping track of amounts outstanding and sales and invoices sent. So this is a section in stub. If you click on a customer that you've got in your little black book, this section will come up, and over time you'll be able to see all of the quotes you've sent to this customer, all of the invoices you've sent to this customer, the total amount that this customer has spent with you over time, as well as the total amount outstanding. In this section, you'll also find customer statements. So it really does become a little powerful tool for you to use on a weekly and monthly basis around what's outstanding, what's owed, and almost what you need to follow up on.
Game changer.
So this is almost like your control room and stuff. So when you come to your dashboard, the real goal here is to know exactly what's going on in your business at any point in time. It becomes really important to understand, and I'll actually go, a big point of what we've done is we understand how important cash is to small businesses in South Africa. We also understand the importance of accrual accounting. So it becomes from a cash flow perspective. So it becomes really important to blend these worlds and to give the entrepreneur a view of both. So if you look at stub, you'll see your profit for the month. So how much money have you made or lost that month? You'll see a rolling profit for the year, for the financial year. So where are you from a year perspective? You can also change months, go back, forward, years, etc. This is pretty much your world to navigate what's going on. You'll see cash in and cash out. That is how much actual cash, and when I say cash, I don't only mean physical cash, I mean payments as well. has come into your business for that month? How much money have you actually received? From a cash out perspective, how much money has actually gone out of your business this month and where's that money going? A little bit below that, and maybe I must actually jump into stub. There. So that might be helpful. If you go down, sorry, I don't have any income payments from an invoice perspective, but there it will start to show you where's your money coming from a channel perspective, and who is your money coming from a client perspective. From an expense perspective, it will also tell you where's your money going to and who is it going to. So it will now start showing you the breakdowns of suppliers, expenses, customers, income streams. This becomes really important just from an overall view of what's going on in your business. I haven't done a slide on reports, but I think it's quite important just to have a look at. So what you'll now see in stub is that your reports are automatically updating in real time. We defaulted to 3-month views. Why do we do that? I think a lot of existing tools today in the market, they speak about a P&L, they speak about a balance sheet, they speak about a cash flow statement, they speak about reports, but the real value in reporting is understanding the differences across months. So what is changing in your business over time and where are those changes taking place? So I think using accounting tools and not an Excel spreadsheet and not a notebook and not a bank statement brings this view to you guys in real time. So any time cash moves in and out of your business, it updates automatically. You can drill down into these reports as well and have a look at exactly what's going on and where those numbers are coming from. You can also download these in PDFs and CSVs, so when you're doing your loan applications, these are on hand. Wasn't supposed to go there. This is a new feature and I'm not excited about it.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So that was off topic, but I'll go
Me
back to
too.
the actual deck now. But I can navigate.
It's amazing how quick the app is. There's like no waiting time, like loading time.
So we've worked really hard on the experience and usability of it, so you shouldn't see load times and stuff. Everything should happen in real time. If it doesn't, Rob's to blame. He hasn't started officially yet, but that will become his responsibility. So we've come from a background in design. So craft, experience, usability is important from a stub perspective. And we also think like entrepreneurs should have great tools. And obviously speed and load time is a big piece of that experience. So we worked really hard on that. So that is your dashboard. All the reports generally look the same, they generally work the same. What I showed you there was the breakdown in, we don't have the income and expense management in here. That is perfect. So what you'll see in stub is income and expenses. On this dashboard, you'll see the 40 as a little pill, and you'll see the 90. This is a stub account that's in the pro plan, which means we've connected bank accounts on this account. So we are syncing transactions in real time, and we're matching your payments from your bank account to your invoices to mark them as paid. And from an expense perspective, we're looking at your expense categories, and where we can automatically categorize them, we are doing that on your behalf. Where we can't, and we're not 100% sure, we leave those uncategorized and you'll have to do some of the work. Auto-categorize wasn't very well trained in the screenshot. Don't worry, it shouldn't have 90 to do, and that should get better. But the thinking here is how do we alleviate as much manual work for you guys as possible? So yeah, that is.
Can I add one thing to it?
Yeah.
Sorry guys, quickly as well, you'll see this little green bubble over here, right? And it's something that we've worked really hard on. So that is a direct chat directly to us as the team. So if you ever get stuck and you're doing anything that you don't know what to do or how to do it, pop us a message there. It's not AI, it's us as humans, and we'll be there in a couple of minutes. We work really hard to be there super fast.
And if it's anything, if you're stuck on a category, if something doesn't look like it's working correctly, if you can't find a feature that you think should be there, drop us a note and we can help, and we'll jump on and help. So that is accounting software in a really quick overview and nutshell. I hope it is feeling a little bit simpler. I hope it's feeling a little bit more accessible and easy to use and not so overwhelming. And yeah, thank you so much for having us. We are here to answer questions or help on anything. Thank you.
Good question. If you've been kind of generating your own invoices or using a different platform and your invoice numbers are certain numbers, and are you starting on stub and obviously your invoice numbers will go to 1, is there a way of, like, how do you rectify that?
So Jules, you can go in and you can use your invoice sequencing that you've got.
Okay.
And depending on what it looks like, it will either pick up and add on that if it's numerical. If it is quite different, just pop us a note and we'll look at it. But we should have something that should be able to translate it.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Any questions?
I have a question. I know that the online payment system said it's only functioning for the rand, but for everything else, can we reprogram with a different currency?
So international payments is a big deal, and a lot of our customers are actually getting paid overseas. The problem is that with a lot of the payment processing at the moment, a lot of it shows you the price and the dollar amount, and then it converts it. So it will convert, the customer will see rand. So at the moment, so we've got multi-currency invoicing on Stub, so you can run your invoices, your expenses in different currencies, and we'll sort of convert and translate that for you. When it comes to payments, they can pay you internationally, but they will see the rand amount converted. So they won't see $2,000, they'll see $2,000 at the exchange rate. We use PayStub as our payment provider. They are one of the best at the moment, and they are working hard on multi-currency invoicing. Well, payments, I say invoicing because that's how we use it, but they are looking at it. It is something that we staying super close to them, and I actually know a lot of the financial institutions in South Africa are working really hard on international payments. It's not as good as it should be yet, but they try.
Anyone else in the room?
I have a question. So can I connect this app with a Shopify so that when someone brings the information goes to the stuff, so you see the Shopify shop?
So fantastic question. So we've actually prioritized Shopify and online marketplace for April. So we're looking to build those integrations as 2 of our first tools that work with Stub in April. So not at the moment, but 100%. But if you do your bank account at the moment, we'll see those net sales, but we know that's not ideal because you actually want to see products, you want to see the receipt, you want to see all of that. So not at the moment, but coming soon, and we'll take your details and we'll bring you on as one of the early users to tell us what it's all about.
Very excited about that.
There's a question in the chat.
Monica, great question. So we're working on this. Oh, sorry. Sorry, guys. Not the question. I won't just enjoy it. I was just going to answer the question without telling everybody else in the room. If you have an accountant you work with, can you add secondary users for the business on your Stub account? So we're actually working on this functionality at the moment. We deployed the first cut of it yesterday. Customers can't see it yet, but we're hoping to have it live at the end of March. So we're looking at multiplayer, multi-business. So what we've realized is that a lot of our entrepreneurs have multiple hustles. So it's not necessarily only about adding multiple users to your profile, but it's about being a single user and having multiple businesses. So we're looking at both of those legs, but absolutely. And we've had it from both sides. We've had it from the accountant looking to manage multiple businesses, and we've had it from the entrepreneur wanting to add an accountant either to double check or from a tax or compliance perspective. Definitely, great question.
Thanks, Monica.
Thank you, Monica. Anybody else?
I'm wondering, is there a way to program like repetitive payments out, like if you have an assistant or an employee that you're regularly paying for 2 weeks?
So at the moment, we don't have recurring expenses, but we've got recurring invoices. So at the moment, you can send recurring invoices through Stub. We haven't picked up recurring expenses. It's a real thing. It's coming up a lot. I think slight workaround at the moment is if your bank account's connected, it will pick up those from a recurring perspective, but if you want a warning about that, and it's almost like you haven't paid it yet, but you know it's coming, not there yet, but great for it. And noted. Go ahead.
So that in the past 3 years, lost as a additional payments, miscellaneous uses, so just like the details. So, is that also have with checks?
So we are just accounting software, we can't help you with that part of it, but I think it's really important to look at the values of paying tax and where it can help you, but Elan will talk to that a little bit now, but I think no, we can't help you with that part, but I think Sasha, our accountant, always says to us, SARS always knows. They might not know today, but they will know. So I think my one piece of advice is just, let's try and help you understand the values of tax and where it can help and being compliant is trying to be the most tax efficient. So not avoid, but efficient around it.
Any more questions on that?
Any more other questions online?
Okay, should we do
Right.
a quick 10-minute break?
Next door.
Everyone can grab a water or drink next door. To everyone online, we'll restart. It's now 17 past. So let's say at 12:30.
Perfect. Cool.
Then we start again. Okay.
Perfect. Thanks, you guys. Don't touch them. I'm sorry.
Oh, do I need to start again? Okay, so I obviously recognize artists are creative, and we know I've been in the industry for quite a long time. So just a little bit about me. I'm the founder of FinSource Consulting, and I've worked with small businesses. I've worked with entrepreneurs for over 15 years, and I'm giving away my age, but I have been in the industry for a long time, and so I've seen the challenges that entrepreneurs face. A lot of it is you don't know what you don't know. So I really hope that today, if you know better, you guys will do better by learning more about, yes, there are compliance parts of today that we're going to run through, but also just some practical ways of how you can implement as soon as you leave here. Okay, so what are taxes and why do we pay them? Where's Sipo? I heard Sipo say, what was the question you asked? You asked Taylor, how do you not pay taxes? So I just want to answer that question and just what are taxes and why do we pay them? So it is compulsory. It's actually our responsibility, as we're all seen as entrepreneurs. If you're selling a product or a service and you're not employed full-time by someone, or you're employed and you are hustling on the side, you are seen as an entrepreneur. And so it is actually our duty and our responsibility to pay the government our taxes so that we can help run the country efficiently. And I know it can be frustrating because I get the backlash all the time, but oh, where's my SARS money going? And if we all did that, we probably wouldn't be in the space that we are now if everybody didn't comply and follow the law. So it is actually our responsibility to pay our taxes and keep the government going, or the country going. So just to touch on employee versus freelancer, can you guys raise hands and maybe just even on there, like who are like full-time employed and then who are actually entrepreneurs where you only selling art or you only creatives and you're not earning a salary from an employer? So, put your hands up if you work for an employer, work for someone and you get a salary every month. Okay. All right. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so if you are in this field and you are an employee, then your employer is responsible to pay your taxes on a monthly basis. They deduct it off your pay slip. You should be receiving a salary slip. They will then deduct the tax and they pay it over to SARS on a monthly basis. You make sure they do. I have come across companies that don't. So, and you'll discover that when you're wanting to submit your tax return, but hopefully they all are doing that. If you are a freelancer, you can also be a freelancer and an employee, by the way. So you could be earning a salary and you could be, they do deduct the pay as you earn and they pay it over to the taxes, they pay it over to SARS. But then you can also be a freelancer. Then you would fall into this category of individual over there, which means that you in both spaces where you're earning a salary and then you're hustling on the side doing extra work, or you now have become a full-time freelancer, and that's why we just split the two. Don't get, there's a lot of writing there, but this is really important for me because this is what I use to explain to a lot of clients, especially when they, not sure what to do and should I register a company or shouldn't I register a company? And these are just some things that I want you to think about. If you are a company and you are freelancing, and so we want to look at what is the difference. So if it's just me, myself, and I, and you haven't formally registered a business, then you are a sole proprietor. That is what it's called. It's an individual, but it's a sole proprietor. If you have actually registered a company, you've received a registration number, and it's separate to you, you can still be me, myself, and I, but you've formalized it and you've registered, you've got a separate tax number and everything, then you will fall into the PTY limited registered company space. Don't be like overwhelmed by the fact that it sounds so formal. You can actually be a one-man band and still have a PTY limited because there's protection in there. There's, more growth. So if you're wanting, as an example, you have an investor that comes on board and you're now a sole proprietor, you, me, myself, and I, you're an individual, you cannot take an investor on board. You can't offer them anything. You can't offer them shares, which means only you can own that company as a sole proprietor for that, because it's just you. When you register a company, you can then look for an investor, which obviously allows more for funding, and they will have a share in your business, 20%, 10%, whatever you decide, whatever is discussed. And so there is obviously, I've put that up if you want to take a pic of it, you can keep it just as a comparison, but the main thing is really around growth and funding. So it's better for scaling if you're wanting to grow, if you're wanting to hire. So as a sole prop, you can hire, you can be VAT registered, you get it, you still pay your taxes, your managing of your finances is exactly the same. But the difference is that with a company, you just give me a sec, my brain. I was talking so much about, it's formalized. So your sole prop is a legitimate business. It doesn't mean because you're running a one-man band that you don't have a legitimate business. You do. Just means that you can't necessarily grow with a new investor. You'll still get funding, but the growth can take a bit longer. And then this as well, personal liability. So if you purchase something as an individual, you now can't afford to pay it, they can come, the company you owe now come after you in your personal capacity and all your personal belongings. If you have a house, if you have a car, you owe someone money, they can come and attach your assets in your personal capacity. Whereas with a company, because that company is a separate legal entity, they can't do that. It's protection. And that is probably one of the reasons why a lot of companies do that. But when you're starting out, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a sole proprietor, just be mindful of that. I'm going to move on. There's a lot that I can spend a whole session talking about that.
I kept on this lot, so that's why it's not letting you, sorry.
Okay, so the most important thing as well to identify from the start is what type of taxpayer are you? So if you are just employed, you earn a salary every month, you have no additional income. And yeah, you have no other income other than your employment. You will be a non-provisional taxpayer. So it's very simple. You just submit your annual return, your tax return once a year, and you can actually do the automation. It's automatic now where they do the automatic submissions. And so SARS actually does it for you. You just have to go and check all your company details are correct, and then you press submit. If you are earning income other than being employed, you will fall into the provisional tax. You'll be a provisional taxpayer. And so then you will actually have to submit and pay tax 3 times a year. There's provisional tax. I just want to check if So provisional tax, all you're doing in provisional tax is you're saying, I think I'm going to earn this for the financial year. That's what I estimate. And I know it can be hard sometimes when you're starting out, you're not sure, maybe you don't have history of your income and your records, and hopefully now you will with stub. And so, it is difficult, but it's saying is, I know I'm going to earn more or less that, or that's what I'm planning to earn. And so all you're doing is you're paying SARS in advance. And I know this sounds, I don't want to pay them, like why must I pay them in advance? But if you know for the first 6 months of the year, you've generated 100,000 Rand as an example, then, and you don't know what you're going to earn, just estimate you're going to earn another 100,000, because that's been quite consistent over the last 6 months. And so all you're doing is you're paying SARS in advance, and you're actually relieving yourself from the full burden at the end of the year. And so from a budgeting and a planning and all of that, it's much better to do it rather than submit your return at the end of the year. You will have to get penalties anyway if you don't. You will be penalized if you're not a provisional taxpayer and you haven't submitted your provisional tax returns, and then you only submit it at the end of the year. Or you say, actually, I'm just going to go and put nil on my provisional tax return, so I don't pay provisional tax because I don't really want to pay them in advance. When you submit that at the end of the year and you now need to pay them, you will then be penalized for that. And so I would highly recommend, from a provisional tax perspective, just it's helping you plan. And every month, I mean, I may be talking ahead, but every month put those taxes aside. So if you have a helpful tool like Stub, and you know what your income and your expenses are, the difference between your income and your expenses is your profit. That profit, you will take that amount and you will multiply it by your tax rate, which we will look at in the next slide. That amount is just an estimate, and you put that into a separate bank account, and it makes your life a lot easier. Which means that when it's provisional tax time, you just go, okay, that's the amount that I put in there. So it's not messing with your cash flow, because that's the most important thing.
Can I just jump in here? So guys, I think we've actually, when we've come to an artist workshop before, we actually had a lady in the crowd that was amazing at explaining this from just a mindset perspective. Because I think when you think of provisional tax, someone's paying that burden on your behalf. So you don't need to plan for it, you don't need to save for it, it just goes. As an entrepreneur, keeping track of so many things at once, remembering to save for tax at the end of the financial year is a massive amount and a big burden. So she said to us, SARS is actually just being kind. They're giving you 3 chances in the year to pay off a bit of that tax. So pretty much what you're doing is, instead of paying one bulk payment at the end of the financial year for the tax that you owe, they're saying, guys, let's check in 3 times a year, and let's just make sure we're paying over tax 3 times, as opposed to waking up at the end of the year and then having this massive payment that you owe. So that helped me. I was trying to understand the bit about non-provisional and provisional, so I just thought I'd share that.
No, it is helpful, and I think, mindset you bring. I think it's important that we change as entrepreneurs. We actually change our mindsets around tax and not be scared and intimidated by it, but really if you understand why you're doing what you're doing, it is really empowering rather than going, oh, I need to pay the tax man. Or if you set your cash aside and you've done it, I can promise you, I've seen clients where they are so excited because they have actually put their taxes aside. And they're like, when can I submit my return? And that is very rewarding. Like for me to see that, I know I'm looking for faces that are smiling and taxes get paid, but it is. And so who must pay taxes? Another question. So everyone pays tax. That's the bad news. Everyone should pay tax. And depending on whether you are a company or whether you are an individual, which we spoke about earlier on, so individual is the same as a sole proprietor, and that will determine your tax rate. So if you look at the slide, these thresholds from the individuals, they come directly off the SARS website and they get updated when the budget speech takes place. I'm not sure if any of you saw, but the budget speech was postponed this year. Still don't know when that will take place. So the tax rates just remain the same. Yeah. I was invited to an event and then the event got cancelled on the day. So it was a budget speech update. So yeah, we'll wait for the main guys to let us know. So yeah, just everyone needs to pay tax. Then how much tax do we need to pay, which is the big question. Because this will determine more or less how much you're going to set aside on a monthly basis for your taxes. So if you are a registered company and you have a company registration number, your tax is 20
Can you guys hear us?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Can you confirm where you stopped hearing us?
When you started on this slide about the tax, the 27%. So it's been
Is that
about 4 minutes or 5 minutes or so. Yeah.
Yes, if you wanna do this camera, it's gonna be easier.
Okay, yeah, let me just, sorry, technical issue.
Okay, thank you so much for flagging that, Karabo. We had a drop in our internet there, but we're back in action.
Okay. Shall I repeat everything? They didn't hear?
We did the double.
Yeah, double tax, 27%. Slide, yeah, so, yeah, there's the company tax is 27%. You can also look at SBC, small business corporation, and turnover tax rates, which are also applicable to companies. And you can go onto the SARS website and have a look at the requirements for the small business corporation and turnover tax rates and whether it applies to you. And then for individuals, your tax will be based on the tax rates in the per SARS and then turnover tax as well.
I have a question just on the previous slide, for individuals. So is, sorry, it's terrible, but on the right is the income, is that the minimum that you need to be earning in order to pay tax?
Yeah, that's the threshold, yeah.
Okay, and if you're earning below that,
You won't
you
pay.
don't pay tax.
Maybe just repeat that question just for on.
Oh, the question was the 95,750 rand for under 65 years old, is that the minimum amount or the maximum amount actually that you can earn before you start paying tax? Yes. You'll start paying tax off once you start earning above that. And that's for the year.
Good question.
This one, we sort of on the way there, the efficiency and excellent.
On the turnover tax, I don't, yeah, I don't. And it would also depend, and that's why I said it's quite dependent on your business, because your expenses that directly relate to your business may be very different to someone else's. But an example is, I can just share an example. If your expenses is, your income is 100,000 and your expenses are 20,000, your profit is 80,000. Normal tax rates will be taxed at 27% of the 80,000. Turnover tax, you're going to be taxed, it's not 27%, they've got their own tax tables, which is not displayed on here, and it will be taxed on your 100,000.
So I'm assuming this.
It depends. It depends. Sometimes it's actually not beneficial.
Yeah.
And that's why you'll find a lot of companies don't actually use the turnover tax techniques, because it's not beneficial. You're then restricted, you can't put any of your expenses through from a tax point. Doesn't mean you can't manage your finances. You can still use the tool, you're just not using it for the tax mode. You are, because you're still tracking your sales, but the expenses yeah, so here's just the tax table on individual. So this is if you're a sole proprietor, you can find this tax table on the SARS website. And so basically there, if you're earning 237,000, you're paying 18% of your taxable income. What's not shown here is that you also do have rebates, primary rebates, and medical aid tax credits. And so when you're not submitting your tax return, you may lose out on that if you don't, which we'll get to just now, I think, you will lose out on that if you don't submit a tax return and you have a retirement annuity, you might be under the threshold, but actually you want to claim for your retirement annuity because your employer doesn't deduct it from your salary. And if you're a provisional taxpayer, you can take that into account during the year when you're doing your provisional tax. But I don't want to confuse you guys, because obviously there's a lot of calculations that can be done. I'm happy to take a deeper dive, send me questions. Yeah, and we can relook at it, but tax is quite complex and overwhelming if you try and make it about each individual for, to teach. So I'm just giving you guys a broad, but it will be dependent on each of your situations. The tax calculation. So should you submit a tax return? So that's, I think, what I just mentioned. So you may be missing out on a refund, like medical aid, maybe you're working for your employer. So what I find a lot happens in the freelance space, you'll be employed by an employer and you will also have like side hustle income. And then your employer deducts your tax at, let's say, 25%, just using an example, you fall into a 25% tax bracket. Then what happens is you actually have other income and you have other expenses that needs to be included on your tax return. So they've actually put you in a low tax bracket because they haven't taken into account all your side hustle income. And then you now go and you submit your tax return and it says you owe SARS X amount. This is if you didn't pay provisional tax, and then you go and you submit your return and it says you owe. That is because, and it's not on the slide, but it is because you actually pay, your employer didn't put you in the right tax bracket, because how SARS sees it is they take all your income from everywhere and then they put you in a tax bracket. But your employer will only know what you're earning from them, and so they'll put you in the 25%, but actually you should have been in the 35% when you add all your income together. So just be mindful of that if you are employed and you're a freelancer, that when you're doing your provisional tax, you take all your income into account from your employer and your freelance income. So you may be missing out on that refund. You may not be able to get or to borrow or get credit, which I think Taylor mentioned earlier on. And then you can't access your retirement savings. I don't know if you want me to add anything more to that, but there are loads more benefits to submitting a tax return. You are potentially missing out on allowable expenses that you could claim, and I'm not talking from an individual perspective, it could be in your business. If you just say, well, I made a loss, because that's a lot of the time making no money, so I'm not submitting my tax return. But actually your loss, if you are a company and you're accumulating a loss, because in the beginning, sometimes companies do make losses, entrepreneurs do make losses because it's growth. And so then those losses can accumulate. And actually, when you start making profits, SARS says, okay, well, now I see you making the profits. I know that the last 3 years you've made a loss, and you can offset that loss against the profit. There are limitations on that, but so like only if your profit's over R1 million, so let's just, keep it small. Calendar year versus tax year. Do you guys get confused with this? I know a lot of clients are doing this. The calendar year is always Jan to December, and tax year is March to Feb. So that's very confusing. And so when we talk about, like, I'm in the 2026 financial year right now, but actually in the 2025 year. And so the tax year right now is the 2026 financial year, because it's March up until February. And so that can be confusing, because in July, you'll see all over the show that actually it's time to submit your tax return. It's tax season. And then you'll see tax season opens in July. And actually it's for your 2025 tax return. Oh, but it's still in 2025. Yes, but 2025 is actually from the 1st of March, 2024 to the 28th of February, 2020. I even can get confused saying it. So it's worth, you'll look at the next slide, actually looking at the calendar, at the timeline to see how it all works. Because it can.
And one piece of advice, don't put your financial year in as December, because accountants don't like that. I was. And I was like, oh, this is gonna have my financial year in by December. But our accountant was like, he's going to, like, everybody likes to take a break, but it's okay.
And that's if you're a registered company. So if you're a sole proprietor and you're an individual, your year end is Feb. That's your year end. If you're a registered company, then you have an option for June, December, Feb. Most South African companies keep it super simple and they just keep it as February. It's like, it's easier from a financial planning, from knowing how much taxes to put aside, all of that. Generally, South African businesses are Feb, so I don't even go into the December. Yeah. There we go. You're gonna take a shot of that, maybe dates for your diary. March 2025. So that was the financial year end I just spoke about. And then July tax season opens. So really, if you leave with nothing from me today, one thing I want you to leave with is when you see that tax season, July, it's opening, know that it's actually for your 2025 tax return, March to February 2025. Then you'll see in October is a deadline for non-provisional tax days. So that's if you're only employed, have no other income, you can, that's your deadline. If you want to get your money quicker because you know you're getting a refund, you're going to submit in July. So you want to get your money from SARS as quick as you can, but you do have a deadline for the 31st of October. If you are a non-provisional taxpayer, then if you are a provisional taxpayer, then 23rd of Jan is your tax deadline. If you're a company, it's the end of February of the following year. When tax season opens, the following year, you have a whole year to submit your tax return.
And I'm
If you're a company.
just jump in there. So what we also picked up is that at the end of Feb, entrepreneurs panic because it's a financial year end and they think they have to submit their tax returns at the end of Feb. That's not the case. So SARS does give you time, like Ellen said, tax season opens the 31st of July. So in between the end of Feb and the 31st of July, just make sure all of your stuff is in order for the previous financial year. So we've had a lot of requests through staff being like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the financial year, I need to submit. And we're like, no guys, you don't have to submit. You just need to make sure that you're frozen for your last financial year. So just make sure all of your stuff for the previous sort of financial year is in order so that you can run your next financial year smoothly and nicely and on top of things. And then from the 1st of July, tax season opens, you can start submitting your tax return. So I think like when you look at those dates, just think of it in that regard. End of the 28th of Feb, that's the end of the last financial year, or the current financial year that you're in. You now want to start your next financial year with fresh. So it's a great time now to start getting your books and getting your finances in order, because it should technically be a clean slate for you guys. And then from the 1st of July, you'll submit your tax returns for the last year. So it's just, I used to get really confused, but like tax season opening, the end of tax year, tax starting, and I think those are just important dates, like Alam said, just to.
And I think a lot of it is confusing and there is a lot of stress at the end of financial year because you've also got your provisional tax return that needs to be submitted. And so that is also, and you know, 28th of Feb 2025 was financial year end, but it was also when you needed to pay provisional tax for the last 6 months of the year. And so it still forms part of the 2025 financial year. That provisional tax. And so to make sure that now you've got that second provisional payment in as accurate as possible, if you haven't kept your records up to date, it'll be a very stressful exercise having to submit your provisional tax and you haven't got anything, you don't have any record. And then after that, you've got time until the tax season opens. So SARS is actually very, very kind to us and does give us time to do all of what we need to do, but it's just about being organized. There you go. What do you need to make sure you've got ready? So that's very personal, more sole proprietors. So if you're a sole proprietor and you're an individual, you need to just make sure you've got your RB5s ready from your employers. Maybe you work for various employers as independent contractors, and so they will actually give you a RB5. Any certificates, if you have investment or dividend and you hold shares anywhere and you have earned interest, you'll have all of those together. Expense invoices and receipts, let's just say stub, you need your business income, your profit and loss, so your income and your expenses. You actually just need a summary of it. So that's what you need to make sure you can submit your tax return. Your medical aid certificates and your RAs, they normally send that. You don't need that if you're a company. That's not what you need. If you're a company, registered company, you don't need medical aid certificates and retirement annuities that you'll use to submit your personal tax return, and that's quite important as well. There are two returns if you're a registered company. Tax return for the company, which you'll use your income and your expenses from stub, hopefully, from your accounting software or from your Excel sheet, and you'll need that, your income and your expenses, and nothing else. And then from an individual point of view, then you would need your RB5s and medical aid and retirement annuity. That doesn't go into your account.
Sorry, everyone, I probably just stop jumping in that, I know that was important. But you need to be saving every single receipt. So a lot of small businesses or entrepreneurs, when they start out, they're not actually saving receipts for their expenses. And if you get audited from SARS perspective from your tax returns, they will need some of those receipts. So I don't know if there's a threshold of the amount where you should start saving.
So I would say all of them. But you only need to keep it for 5 years. So after 5 years, give it.
Just so the powerful.
Yeah.
Not the pet.
But I can say the easiest way, I mean, obviously, if you're using digital tools like Text or HubDoc or various stuff, I don't actually know. So that was one of my questions, whether stuff can keep the supplier invoice, the bill on stuff. But if yes, then you can. And so those tools are great because you take a picture, you put it into stub, and then if you connect your bank account, once the payment leaves the bank account, it then it will mark that bill, that outstanding bill as paid. And then it's there for record.
And just to add, we had a really great question at one of our last workshops, and it was, what if I shop at a shop where I don't get a receipt? So they don't give me a slip, they don't use digital, parts. And the nuance there is get a detailed write-up of what you bought from that shop owner. And so the dates, what you bought, the total, and then take a picture of that, so you have a reference of that kind of expense.
It becomes important when you're shopping in the informal market.
Yeah.
So a lot of the artists that we worked with in the past were buying supplies from local stores, which meant that they weren't necessarily digital receipts of what is being bought. So if there are digital receipts, just make sure there is a record information.
And that they're signing, I think, if they don't have a receipt book, the shops don't have a receipt book, then just, make sure you walking around with your receipt book. If you are shopping from that local supplier that isn't keeping record of their finances. Okay, we're going to look at an example. I just want to see. So this example is just looking at a full-time, he works full-time for a design agency and is a freelance artist on the side. So he earned 80,000 from his freelance work for the 2025 tax year. So he earns 20,000 Rand a month from the design agency where he's employed full-time. And then he earned 80,000 Rand from his freelance work for the 2025 tax year. So those are two things. He doesn't have, we're gonna look at, he doesn't have a registered company for his freelance artwork. And then where he does have a registered. This doesn't look at the turnover tax, but we're totally being like happy because you're the only one that asked if you did sit through just an example, like scenario, you don't have to use your exact figures of like income plus minus expenses, and I can do that. I can show you based on the tables. Oh, sorry. I was just saying you asked early on about the turnover tax, and so I said I don't have an example of the turnover tax, but I'm very happy to. We have time afterwards because I can just go online and show you.
No, I just wanted a positive case in mind, someone that would use it, like, I think I was in the position, they, taxing income of people.
But you'd have a much lower tax rate. The tax rates are much lower than the 27. So that's what depends on where you're falling into. So this is a sole proprietor. He earns employee income of 20,000 rand, freelance income of 80, and that's his taxable income of 320,000 rand per year. The tax is calculated based on those tax tables that we looked at earlier. So the tax there is 64,231 rand. And then if he does have a registered company using the exact same number as taxable income. So here he has a registered income. That's not right. That's not right. The slide isn't right. Because if you have a registered company, yeah. I'm assuming that here this is an employee and he's a director of the company and he's getting a salary with the company.
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
I'm just asking this the slide. I never have slides done for me. These slides were done for certain ones were done for me. So that's quite great. I know. Okay, so this is so I just want to explain this, why you see tax being paid for this employee, because yeah, he actually has a registered company and he is a director and an employee in the company, and so that's why the employee tax is being deducted from him at 20 at the rate. And then he also earns freelance company income and he's paying, no, I don't agree with it. Yeah, and then he's paying 27%. I want to relook at this example. I don't feel comfortable with that example, so I just want to relook at it. But ideally what should happen is that is the pay as you earn, if that's the profit. So maybe we need to just change the language here. This is the profit from his registered company. So the profit after he's paid himself a salary is 80,000 rand. Then yes, the tax payable at 27%, and then that would be the total tax that's therefore paid.
Got you.
So I just want to re-explain that again, just to, if I got confused, I always assume everyone else is confused, like if I'm the only one confused, then maybe there's someone else that is. So going back, doesn't have a registered company, tax rates are all the same. There's no individual tax rate and company tax rate. The overall income that he earns is taxed at the tax rates per the individual tax tables, which is here. So that's why we took his employee income that he earns from another employer, freelance income, and we took the total taxable income and calculated his tax according to the individual tax tables. When we look at the next slide, he is a registered company, but that employee income comes from his company. Yeah, comes from his company that he works for. So that's why he's getting taxed at the tax tables per the individuals, and then that's the profit that he makes in his registered company after he's paid himself a salary, and he's taxed at the company tax rate, 27%, and that's the total tax that he pays. So we're assuming that this company, the registered company, he is the only employee and director, and that's, yeah, and he's taking all the money out of the business. Because if there were other, maybe if you're a registered company and there were other shareholders, he won't pay tax on the full amount. So I'm going to take all the money And actually the company is paying this tax, not him, he's basically not gonna get technical and go the next slide down, because, okay, maybe I will add it. To take the money out, Sefu to actually take the money out, he pays dividends tax. And dividends tax is 20%. So this is the company tax that you pay. And that's the tax that you pay in your individual capacity. So when you're submitting 2 returns, that's the tax you pay on your company tax return. That's the tax that the company pays on your behalf. You don't have to worry about that. Whereas here you have to actually pay all the taxes yourself. But you are the company if you are a one-man band and you register. Yeah. Yeah. Are there any questions on this? Because I know it can get technical. Okay, how do I reduce my taxes? So as an individual, we spoke about it earlier on, we've got your medical aid, tax credits, we've got a retirement annuity, tax rebates that you can claim, and if you're under 65, if you're over 65, it's higher. And then of course, yeah, deducting business related expenses, but obviously depending on your income, because if you're making a profit, your sales is 100,000 and you're claiming your expenses correctly, then you are going to be able to reduce it. People spend money on a few things to run his own freelance business during the 2025 tax year. So there's all these deductions. So even though that's what he earned, he's allowed to deduct those expenses if he's a freelancer. He doesn't have a registered company. And so you're always going to be able to reduce your income by your expenses unless you're doing the turnover tax. And so if he doesn't have a registered company, he'll then also reduce it by his medical aid, gets a tax credit. Yeah, maybe 364 Rand for 12 months. If he has him and somebody else, like he's got another, him and his wife, or then it will be ×2. It's in his name, the medical aid is in his name. And so here we can see if he does doesn't have a registered company.
Showing you the reduction.
Yeah. And so here we go. So here we've got the tax already paid by the employer, because his employer would have paid the tax. There's your rebate that you get, and then the medical aid tax credits, and that's why you get a refund. So when you do your tax return and you get a refund, if you don't have these, just want to make this as well, if you don't have tax credits, you don't have any business expenses, and you're just an employee and you get a refund, then it means that actually your employer deducted too much tax from you. Because I know, like, when I've had clients come and you do their tax return and they maybe moved from a previous accountant, or they go, I always get a refund, or I always have to pay. You know, it can work either way. It's either that your employee, if you're full-time employed, pay too little, or they pay too much tax if you don't have medical aid and you don't have an RA. Because that primary rebate is taken into account when your employer calculates your taxes. Yeah, so just to summarize, I think Taylor said a lot of these things already, but yeah, keep a separate bank account, use accounting software. It's life-changing. It really is life-changing. It gives you peace of mind. You're able to keep track of all your expenses and your income. But besides that, when it comes to tax time, it's so simple. You go and log into your accounting software and you see your income and your expenses, and it's all there. And you don't have to go and scramble when it's year end to try and put it all together. We spoke about keeping proof of all of it. And it is more beneficial to submit your income tax returns. if you are below the threshold, if you have medical aid and if you have an RA. But if you're full-time employed, it's actually automatic. You just have to go and review and say, yes, that's my medical aid and that's my RA, and you'll actually, it's so simple. But obviously as freelancers, we just got to go and then add in, regardless, we have to submit. So if you don't fall into that threshold, if you don't meet the threshold, you don't have to submit a return. If you're earning other income other than being employed, you must submit. It's compulsory to submit a tax return. And then, I hope you guys took a snapshot of the benefits of registering a company. And you must pay taxes, but there's no law that says you got to tip. So I think the important thing is we always talk about how do I reduce my taxes. And so when you're reducing your taxes, just make sure that you're keeping accurate records, because it makes you know that's the one way, and that your tax structure is correct. And if you need help with tax structuring and should I be a sole prop, should I be a company, do I qualify for SBC, do I qualify for turnover tax, reach out to your accountant. If you don't have one, reach out to me, and happy to work through that with you. Yeah, that's all from me. Thank you for showing up. It's not fun being here on a Saturday maybe to listen to taxes, but I hope it is now, and I hope you guys feel empowered by what you've heard today.
Every question.
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry about playing a blind there, but
Absolutely.
Does anyone in the room have any questions? Okay, I want to ask a question. For people like myself who get very overwhelmed by finances, like having a very creative brain, what is an affordable way of kind of doing the tax returns? Like what resources are there that aren't going to cost you a lot? I mean, accounting services, or what would you recommend for people who maybe can't afford to get like a permanent accountant to help them? What is the best solution?
So for me, the best solution is to do all your own bookkeeping and all your own accounting work on your own, that you do through stub or an accounting software, let's say stub. And so if you do it through stub, you actually just need, if you want to, for your own peace of mind, and I always say it's important, just have an accountant do a once over review, pay for a consult of 1,500 rand. Let them have a quick review of your numbers, and then actually you can go and submit your tax return. If you're a sole proprietor, an individual, you can actually submit your own tax return. If you're starting out, and it is very simple. I'm all about upskilling, and I think you and I chatted earlier on. As entrepreneurs, we have to upskill. And so if you can submit your own tax return and you have the guidance of an accountant, that's fine. Companies, I wouldn't suggest. Companies, you need to appoint an accountant that is able to do it. So are you a registered company, or you still trade registered company? So if you're a registered company, like I would suggest having that once over. So you can learn how to complete your tax return, because nothing stops you. You do have to have financial statements completed by your accountant. So when they do your financial statements, take those financial statements and attempt to complete your company tax return, set up a consult with your accountant and say, can we please go through this? If they don't want to, that should red flag, because if you want to submit it, there's nothing that stops you from submitting it. But having that once over is always, it gives you peace of mind. So that would be the cheapest way to do it. And if you didn't want to do it, if you wanted to outsource it, and it's not within your, it's not something you want to do, then obviously it does cost, but there are various ways. I mean, just with us, you can either go on a compliance plan, which is you do the provisional tax and your final tax return and you have the quarterly catch up, or you outsource everything because you don't want to do any of the bookkeeping, which when you're starting out, I think it's so important to do your own things because you actually understand what's happening in your business.
I think what's also nice with that setup is that, so we often see that different small businesses or entrepreneurs take huge risks, but I think if you set up the right way. Managing it on a monthly basis is really easy and straightforward because you know your business, you know your expenses, you know your income. But just making sure you are putting those things in the right places is just helpful from a kickoff. And then I think, yeah, it's peace of mind at the end. Just sit with someone like them and just be like, have I done everything correct? Perfect, okay, you go to the something.
So like one of the stub clients that we work with, they do all their own bookkeeping, they do everything, and they just have like a monthly finance focus session with us. It's 90 minutes, and so then we just take a deep dive into the numbers, make sure they've allocated. If they have any questions, like I don't know where to allocate this, should I allocate it here? We do that, and then at least we know the numbers are okay, because that's essentially what we're using to submit the original tax return. And then they just do a compliance. It's compliance. They don't do their own tax returns. It's just we do the submission of the returns with the finance focus session. They manage with it. So there are loads of ways, but yeah, I think accountants generally do want to scare the living daylights out of all entrepreneurs. That you can't actually submit a tax return. There is absolute risk in everything. So we know that there is risk, and we'll never play that down. And so if you do want that peace of mind, then rather let an expert look over it. Like I'm not going to buy art until I can speak to you. I actually don't know anything about art. And so I will say, like, what do you think? This is my style, you know, because I don't. I'm like we chatted about earlier. So
anyone?
Yeah, I had a question. So let's say you are an employee and you get employee income, and then you also, you're a sole proprietor who has that side hustle income. Are you able to adjust your withholding with your employer so that they're able to account for like the additional income you're making? So you don't have to be concerned about that.
If they're willing to, absolutely. There's no reason why. And I actually had that question. No, I had a client, and that's happening to them. And they asked, and I was like, of course you can, but a lot of them don't. Because if they do it for the one, they have to do it for everybody, and then it becomes complicated. And a lot of the times, independent contractors, they just deduct 25%, because that's what they need to do. So now if they need to check, okay, every time you're going to have to update what tax bracket you fall into, because maybe that's what you estimated your freelance income to be, but actually your freelance income is not that. So it can be a bit tricky from an employer perspective. And that's why there's that provisional tax to allow for it. And so my biggest advice today as well is just open up a separate taxes bank account, out of sight, out of mind. So even if you start putting away 15%, you know, it's something. So put 15% in there. You want to be absolutely accurate. Look at your income, look at your expenses, and deduct and see times that by 12. So even if you do it for the last 3 months, that gives you 3 months records, or if you've got 3 months worth of records, take those, the profit, average profit, so look at the first 3 months, add up that profit, divide it by 3 just to get your average, and then times it by 12, so make sure you've got a full year and see what tax bracket you fall into. That's if you've not a registered company. And then all you do is you put that aside every month. Yeah.
So if you say I'm not employed, rather just have NGO, so how do I manage my taxes?
You still have to submit a return. You still submit a return.
No, the NGO.
Yes. Your NGO has a registered, has a tax number.
Any questions online?
Yes. Daniel says, hi, for freelance individuals, what items are you allowed to deduct from your income when doing taxes?
What? Deductions.
Yeah, are you allowed?
Expenses, yeah. So in obviously freelance depends what freelance, so for artists, I mean your materials, your subscriptions, your sort of raw materials, subscriptions, telephone, home office expenses if you work from home, your art studio rental, if you're paying rent somewhere to work, anything that you use to any expense that you incur to be able to sell that artwork. Commission, maybe you're selling in a gallery, the commission that you pay, that is an expense. So even though your artwork's worth 30,000, if you're paying 10%, 3,000, that's an expense.
It's a great definition, just 2 cents,
Yeah.
of just anything that I need to pay for to help me do my job.
Yeah.
Or to help me do my craft, or to help me get this product or service into a place is an expense that you can generally deduct. So it's just a good rule of thumb.
How far can you push that to that?
That's the challenge. So I think that's the challenge, is that we need to always, and I always use formal language. I know Stub will change my formal language, but it is important to sometimes go back to if it's in the production of income. I know it's very terminology, but it's what is it that you need to do to produce that income? How do you need to operate on a daily basis to produce that income? So the expenses that I see willy-nilly, which depends on your accountant and the proof that the client can give us, it's entertainment. If I go out every single day, what is that part of my day? Do I not have an office? So I need to sit and work in coffee shops and have coffee, and that's my workspace. Entertainment, if I'm going out with my friends, I've seen it, I've got loads of friends that do own businesses, and do I take that slip off the table and go, give me the slip, I'll put it through the business? Like, that's not ethical. Was that in the production of income? No, it wasn't in the production of income. Does SARS have a limitation on it? No, they don't. So if you can prove that actually you took out your friends that are actually clients of yours, then sure, put it through, but it's not ethical actually, and it's not correct, because you're not producing any income, you're spending all your income. So, but a lot of business owners do put entertainment through, and that's one of them. Travel, big one. SARS comes down quite hard on travel, so be careful what you're putting through travel. Always keep an itinerary. If you book a flight to Joburg, keep your flight details. We actually in the process of creating a like proper template to share with all our clients. SARS have actually come down quite hard on travel and local and international. So make sure you have an itinerary for both of that. What is it going to do? Is it going to produce income, or are you just going on a holiday? And yeah, so anything that you expense that you're paying that is essentially part of your day-to-day freelancing work and how you're going to produce your sale, that's really an expense.
And I think for business expenses of like meals and entertainment, travel and all that kind of stuff, when you upload that receipt into Stub as a tracking tool, there's a note section. And what we tell customers, what we do ourselves is in that note section, write who was at the coffee shop with you and what that meeting was about. If you're traveling to Joburg, write what that meeting was for and who you were going to see. So it's just really important to have an audit trail of those expenses, and then they're pretty easy to justify. It's when you blur the line and you can't have that reason for what that expense was, it becomes tricky to justify.
It's not more than 10% of the expenses for entertainment or.
They say that, but actually it can't always be. So like it can't be like you've got clients and we've had this discussion at loads of the workshops and the SARS, I mean even SARS themselves, because if you've got a client that is on a complete marketing drive or entertainment drive for that year, it's going to be way more than 10%. Sometimes can be way more. But then you've just got to have and say it is over 10% because of that. But generally, that 10%, it really does vary because it depends on the client, the nature of the business, their strategy for the year, and it is a legitimate business expense. Especially like estate agents, you know, they take up all their clients and it is more than 10%, it's entertainment, it's seen as entertainment. I mean, I'm waiting for them to ban, they've done it in Australia, I think the UK as well, there are some limitations, but they haven't yet. So a lot of entrepreneurs do go wildly. But I wouldn't suggest it.
Any more questions online?
One just got, someone just asked a question, but on the last question, do you have to prove production of income? So let's say you go to an art fair with the intention to like sell, but you don't sell. Do you have to prove that the intent to produce income was there, even if there's no production of income?
No, you paid, I suppose you paid for the fair and you
Yeah.
are in the art industry, so it is.
That's all you need. Just the intent.
They expect the invoice for that. If you have your business in a PTY and you end up paying for a business expense in your personal capacity and need to claim back from your company, what is best practice around doing that? I'm going to answer that question first. Sorry for the very up close here. But just to answer your question, in that case where you do pay for a business expense in your personal capacity, you then need to pay it back to yourself. So if it's just you and you don't have to submit it to any finance team or anything like that, you have record of the actual expense, so the invoice or the receipt, and you would just do a payment from the business account into your bank account, and you would say on the description, like I've done it before as well, you just say reimburse. It's a reimbursement, so there are no tax implications for you in your personal capacity. It's a straightforward reimbursement and it becomes an expense in the business. And so you could say reimbursement petrol, which means that petrol reimbursement in the business will get expensed as petrol or motor vehicle expenses. And on your side, you obviously, it's an in and out. You paid the petrol, you got the money back. Can the invoices you have in your personal capacity be used as evidence, or should you create an invoice in your personal capacity to your business?
I think you answered that already when you answered the first part, so it's fine. Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were referring to like your client invoice, like your invoice.
Yeah, you answered it. Thanks.
Any more questions online? Let's see. What's happening? Okay. Cool. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you so much to our speakers. That was so insightful. I feel like I need to go home and just digest and really get on it. But yeah, we really appreciate you guys taking the time, especially on a Saturday. Legends, and we look forward to doing lots more workshops together. And Tilo, thank you so much for having us. It's just incredible to be here and to, especially amongst these breeze artworks. And yeah, thank you so much to everyone for joining in person and online. This workshop series has been so incredible and the response has been amazing. We've got 2 more left, so we really recommend that you guys come and join us. We encourage people to come in person. It's a really nice opportunity to get to chat to other like-minded people. We've got nice drinks and snacks. So hopefully see some of you online in person next time. And yeah, enjoy the rest of the weekend. Thank you all so much.
Thanks so much.